Hi, this is Hyperwave. I'm Leah Wald here with Tyler Jenks. Looks like you guys are seeing a lot of me tonight if you guys just saw Tone's video. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the NASDAQ because we received a incredible tweet from one of our followers. So I'm, especially because my dog is going especially crazy tonight, I'm going to quickly hand this over to Tyler so he can explain what he's seeing, which seems quite monumental, actually. Okay, Ty?
Great, thank you very much. One of our followers constructed an excellent hyperwave chart on the NASDAQ, and I'm going to spend about 10 minutes talking about it.
Just cutting in for one sec, Ty.
Yeah.
Everyone who's watching, we will also cover Bitcoin at the end. So, yep, Ty.
Yeah, very good. We will take a look at Bitcoin, but the big story is not Bitcoin tonight. It is the NASDAQ. I don't have permission to use his name. I just haven't had time, or his handle, but I did retweet it. And if you check our Twitter, there's a number of references to it, but I'm going to show his chart and give him full credit for it because he did an excellent job of doing it. So without further ado, I'm going to just quickly go to screen share and give you some detail on what we're looking at and why. First of all, I will show you his chart. And I will show you his name, even though I don't have permission, J6336 at JATC1. This is difficult to see, and I've redone it myself, but I'm going to use the same lines that he is using on this chart. What is novel about the construction, and I need some time to think about it, but the implications are so big, I wanted to get it out this evening so people could do their own work tomorrow before next week. So let me show you what I put together. A little easier to see using stockcharts.com. Now, what's interesting to me about this construction is this first 10-year period. I've shown you this over and over again as a perfect example of a hyperwave running from about 1992. It doesn't show that on this chart, but all the way until 2003, the bottom. So it's about an 11-year hyperwave in which this was phase two. Don't look at the lines I've drawn, just follow my pointer. This was phase two, this was phase three, this was phase four, and this was the crash of 5. This was 6, and this is the 7 going all the way back down. Now, what this gentleman constructed didn't start at the end of this hyperwave. He went back to the beginning of the first hyperwave as if it were a fractal. If you remember, I did the same thing both with gold and with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But we have been looking at Amazon, Tesla, NVIDIA, and Netflix, and I have found 14 other NASDAQ stocks that are in hyperwaves. We haven't talked about them yet, but I love what this chart is showing, and I cannot fault it. at this point. I want to go back and check all the points, but let's go through it very quickly and then talk about what the implication is. The phase one line is down at about 750, and it runs to the left off this chart. I could move it up a little bit, but for now, let's just take that going back into 1992, 93, 94, before this acceleration started up, and assume some sort of a phase one line down there. This then is the phase two line, which includes the bottom of the NASDAQ at 1250, the bottom again in 2003, March of 2003, the bottom again after the tremendous sell-off from 2,750 down to 1,250 during 2007, 8, and 9 during the financial panic. He's considering all of that phase two, and I would agree with that. Phase three has got a number of important touches on it that on this chart is too difficult to see. I want to look much closer at each of the years, but from what I've seen, it looks correct. But basically, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touches, including this big drop in 2016, where we went from 5,250 down 1,000 points, or a 20% drop, took it right back down to the phase line. It'd be difficult for anyone to argue that this is not a phase four. Clearly, the acceleration is up. And what it is saying is somewhere around, and I'll give you a much better idea tomorrow or Monday. We've got until a week from Friday before we have to worry about a close. But I'm going to just throw out a number now, somewhere around 6,625. We're at 6,992. So we're only talking about 300 points, or about 5% from where we closed on Friday to the phase four line. So until we can do some more detailed work on this, simply think about the implication of what this could be saying. Remember that this, back in 1995, peaking in March of 2003, led the rest of the market down. The Dow and the S&P did not peak until later that year. Everybody thought it was just a dot-com bubble breaking. But within the same year, 2003, all the other major indexes turned down, and then they accelerated in 2001, 2002, until March of 2003. What has led the markets up for the last 3 years are the FANG stocks, F-A-A-N-G, not just F-A-N-G. And they have outperformed in 2017 and so far in 2018 by a very large margin all the other indexes, which means that what has been driving the Dow and the S&P 500 and even mid-cap and small-cap stocks is basically this movement right here in phase four of the NASDAQ. So if we are really that close to a phase four, one of two things is about to happen. Either we come down close, even closer to that line. Hopefully we don't, because I won't get any sleep for the next week if we come closer on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to this line. It's that important. if we break that line with everything I've told you about Hyperwave, that is the end of the move up in the NASDAQ, and it should drop all the way back down to enormously small numbers over a number of years. This is coming out of the blue for me. I've been very bullish the stock markets, mainly the S&P, which is what I follow the most closely. I'm not prepared for it. My clients are not prepared for it. And I know that almost no one on Wall Street is prepared for it. There's a handful of people that have been talking about we're way overextended. That's not what this is saying. This is saying that we are very close to a complete reversal in the stock market. And yes, the word crash is the correct word if we go into phase 5. Now, note how short this phase 4 line is relative to the phase 3 and the phase 2. I would have to say that the probability is great that we will not break that phase 4 line. We will come down and bounce off of it and go much, much higher. But we are now talking phase 4, whereas in Bitcoin, we've been talking phase 2 and 3. That's what is so shocking to me. This construction meets all of the requirements at first glance. I've only looked at it for a number of hours today, but it is clearly in a phase 4 if everything else checks out. So the implications of this particular hyperwave are almost infinitely more important to the US and world economy than what we've been talking about with Bitcoin. That's why I wanted to bring it to you as quickly as I could. And I will spend a number of vlogs this week going into as much detail as I can, including adding all the other NASDAQ stocks that I've been following that are in various phases. And I might have to rethink what phases some of those, like Amazon and Google and Netflix, are actually in, going back even further in time. So enough of that. Very important stuff. Thank you very much for your discovery and your tweet, JATC1. And I'm going to just very quickly show Bitcoin because that's what brought us all together. And I was very disappointed that we could not break above 9,000 and ended up with a lower candle. We are holding on about 300 and some points above where we need to close approximately 22 hours from now. And I've got full confidence that will happen. And that we will move up off of the phase line right here. We're sitting above it now, but there's not a whole lot of room. And hopefully we get something going on tonight so we don't have to live through another Sunday like we did last week. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Leah.
I had myself on mute. Well, I don't know why I always get this reverb. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. We'll see what happens. I guess I don't know what to do as a follow-up for that one. Tyler, you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, thank you very much for this last minute, but I thought you would all want to hear it. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.